welcome. Yes, welcome. You're listening to the Scoreboard here on WSIC 844 Studio 4 is the phone number. If you want to be a part of the program, call me up. We can chat about anything. There's a ton of stuff going on in the world of sports these days, in case you weren't aware. We have a little bit of reaction from, well, not reaction, but more conversation from Iowa. And there's a lot of NASCAR rumors going on right now with the charter negotiations, with the schedule for next year. Where's Kyle Busch going to be driving? The season isn't over yet, but it's officially silly season time. We have there's a lot of discussion about the future of NASCAR and the schedule for next year. Many races are getting shuffled around. It's going to be an interesting time. So we'll talk a little bit about Iowa, and we'll also do a little bit of previewing for my least favorite track, New Hampshire. That's a track where you look at it and you say, okay, NASCAR, it's officially time to take it off the schedule. Now, I don't think that we should be racing there anymore. It's produced a few good races. It's produced a lot of duds. And I mean a lot of duds. But NASCAR will be in New England on Sunday for New Hampshire, 301 laps around the 1 mile racetrack. Last night, we had some NHL action. It was game number 5 of the Stanley Cup final between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. If you remember Edmonton, they went down early, 3-0. Well, now they have won 2 games in a row, and they are being led by arguably one of the greatest athletes of this generation, Connor McDavid. I know that might be a shock to a lot of you to hear, there's a hockey player that's the greatest athlete of this generation. You know all those sayings on Wayne Gretzky and all his unbreakable records, and man, nobody will ever be as good as... Connor McDavid is breaking Wayne Gretzky records. He broke the record for assists in a playoff. He's like 5 points away from breaking the record for total points in one playoff run. He's got 42. He already created a brand new record. He is the only player in NHL history to score 4 points in back-to-back Stanley Cup final games. 8 points in 2 games. It's outrageous what he's doing right now. There was a play during the game on the power play. Connor McDavid had been on the ice for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. The entire power play. If you know much about hockey, 45 seconds, a minute, max, and then you're off the ice. He was out there for 2 minutes. Waltz into the zone, just undresses everybody, feeds it to his teammate, roofs it, and it was silent in Florida. That put Edmonton up 3-0 in the game. Connor McDavid is a different animal. And I'm very happy that he made a Stanley Cup final. I know there's a lot of people, I don't want Canadian teams to win. Okay, whatever. This is the greatest player in hockey right now. Get him on the big stage. It's great to have him in the Stanley Cup final, because now if you need something to watch, and there's not much going on right now unless you want to get into the baseball scene, but if you want to find something to watch, something meaningful to watch, you have the NCAA College World Series. But right now it's hockey time. Stanley Cup final is on, and people who are tuning in are being introduced, maybe even for the first time, to Connor McDavid. And once you see how he plays and how good he is at playing, man, it's hard to look at anybody else and say, yeah, that guy is just as good in his sport. Connor McDavid is dominating hockey right now. And the Edmonton Oilers are on a 2-game run. Now, we've seen a 2-game run before. The Carolina Hurricanes went down 3-0, won a couple of games in a row, but then they lost. A little different here because the game 4 was at Edmonton's house. So, a little different. Connor McDavid, man, 4 points in back-to-back Cup final games. There are 2 players in NHL history that have multiple 4-point Stanley Cup final games. Wayne Gretzky and Connor McDavid. There is only one player that has back-to-back 4-point games in the Stanley Cup final, and that one player is Connor McDavid, and he did it last night. So the Edmonton Oilers are not out of it just yet. There's actually some interesting hockey moves that are being made during the Stanley Cup final. Yeah, the trade deadline passed, but teams are still negotiating. They're still doing things. One of those things, Jacob Markstrom. You might recognize the name Jacob Markstrom. How many months was I saying, hey, Carolina, go trade for this guy. Go get him because you need a number 1 goaltender. Well, somebody else went in and traded for Jacob Markstrom. The Devils, the New Jersey Devils, get Jacob Markstrom for a first-round pick and a prospect, Kevin Ball. Kevin Ball, he is not a prospect. He's got a couple of years under his belt at this point. Carolina's going to be twiddling their thumbs. Are they going into next season with the same goaltending situation? TikTok, ladies and gentlemen, TikTok. Now, the Hurricanes were in the news the other day for officially naming their GM, Eric Tulsky. He was the interim GM when Don Waddell decided to leave, but now he is officially the GM for Carolina. And look, the NHL free agency is not that far away. The NHL draft is not far away. And I know we're focusing a lot on the NHL, but Carolina's good in the NHL. They're not really all that good in basketball. The Hornets are. Whew, that's a mess down there in Charlotte. So the Edmonton Oilers do not get eliminated from the Stanley Cup final. Game number 6, and I have a problem with this. Now, I understand it, but I have a problem with this. Game 6 is going to be Friday. A potential Game 7 is going to be Monday. 5 days from now. It's not a good way to ride the momentum of a wonderful hockey game. We're going to head to a commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more hockey. Then we'll get into the NASCAR world. You're listening to The Scoreboard. We'll be right back after this.
the #1 station for people who say we're their favorite station.
WSIC.
Talk sports with Joe Berg. Call 844-STUDIO-4. It's the Scoreboard on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Scoreboard. 844-STUDIO-4 is the phone number if you're interested in chatting with me. We can talk about anything. I've been talking about the NHL to start the day. Game number 5 of the Stanley Cup Final was last night. I have a problem, and I feel like I say that every day. Every day it's something, right? It's always something. Scheduling. Let's talk about scheduling. You know who determines the schedule for playoffs and things like that? Your TV broadcasters. ESPN owns the rights to the NHL. They also own the rights to a lot of NCAA finals, including the College World Series. By the way, an update for you on the College World Series. Earlier today, Florida eliminated Kentucky, so they have a chance to play Texas A&M. That game starting at, looks like 7 o'clock. Right now, you have Tennessee up 5-0 over Florida State. If Tennessee wins, they go to the College World Series final. If Florida State comes back and wins, we will have another game tomorrow between those two teams. Texas A&M and Florida. If Florida wins, we get a second game, but if A&M wins, they advance to the College World Series. The dates of the College World Series are as follows. Saturday, June 22nd, Sunday, June 23rd, and Monday, June 24th. What did I just get done explaining on the other side of the break? What days are the rest of the NHL playoffs going to be played on? Well, Game 6 is going to be Friday. Game 7, Monday. What else is Monday? A possible Game 3 in the College World Series. ESPN owns the rights to both of these. And somehow, some way, we have an overlap here. It's like the only two big things going on right now. The NBA is done. Obviously, you have golf all the time. Golf is happening. But like NASCAR is happening all the time. Championships are being handed out. And you put these things on the same day, like, yeah, maybe we don't get to this point where we have a Game 7 in the NHL Stanley Cup Final and a Game 3 in the College World Series Final. But why would you even schedule it like that? It doesn't make sense. ESPN is going to have the Stanley Cup Final on ABC. They're going to delegate the College World Series to the network of ESPN. That is a little bit frustrating to me. They should have separated it a little bit. Now, I understand rest days and things like that. Maybe give the college guys one more day, 2 more days to rest, because you've had this system now in the Stanley Cup Final. A game, and if you're traveling, you got 2 days off because of how far, and I think it's because of how far Edmonton and Sunrise, Florida are from each other. It's like 2,500 miles. It's insane. So I understand you have 2 rest days, but you just had an incredible hockey game last night. You're going to lose all that momentum because we want a game tomorrow. We talk about Game 5 today. We want to see Game 6 tomorrow. It's not going to happen that way. Game 6 is going to be Friday. Let's say Edmonton wins. Wonderful. We have a Game 7 for the Stanley Cup. Let's talk about it on Saturday. Watch the game on Sunday. We're not watching a Stanley Cup Final game on Sunday. It's another 2-day rest period. It's on Monday. You knew this was going to happen. So why are we scheduling things like this? Why do we have to have 2 championship events at the same time? And like I said, it may not happen. This would be a Game 3 and a Game 7. A lot needs to happen to get to this point. But it's the fact that it's a possibility that just, it irritates me. I want to watch both. I want to watch the College World Series. I want to watch the Stanley Cup Final. But if you're putting them on the same day at the same time, what are we going to do? It is frustrating. And, we see this in other sports. The NHL always has that problem when we get to playoff time where they start the first round, 3 games start at the same time, and then 3 games start at the same time later. The NBA staggers it pretty good, actually. The NBA does a good job with staggering. The NFL, when they get to the playoffs, they don't have to worry about it all that much. They are standalone events because they're also a 1-game thing. It's not a series of 7 games, of 5 games, of 3 games. So it's a little different, but still, it's frustrating. Putting championship games on the same day, an hour apart from each other. Game 3 of the College World Series final would be Monday at 7 o'clock. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final would be Monday at 8 o'clock. You can't play a baseball game in an hour. Granted, puck drop in the hockey game's probably not going to be until 8:20 anyway. Maybe first pitch is a little bit after 7. So these things are a little different. But still, my point remains. Why are we scheduling, ESPN, why are you scheduling championships on the same day? Seems self-explanatory to me. Maybe, and whenever I see something like this and I think it's a lot easier than what they're making it, I always think maybe I'm not seeing the bigger picture here. Maybe not. But I would think the bigger picture is having more eyes on the event that you're broadcasting. Instead of taking eyes away from the College World Series because somebody wants to watch the Stanley Cup Final, or taking eyes away from the beginning of the Stanley Cup Final because somebody wants to go watch the College World Series. ESPN, you are the ones who are dictating this. And yet we have overlaps. It's just, it's frustrating. 844-STUDIO-4. Do you care about this? Does this matter? 844-788-3464. I care about it because I want to watch both of them. But if we get to a Game 3 in the College World Series final, and if we get to a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup final, a choice is going to have to be made because they're going to be happening at the same time. Make it make sense, please. Let's move on from the NHL. By the way, still top of the 5th, it seems. Tennessee still up 5-0 over Florida State. If Tennessee wins, they move on to the College World Series. If Florida State wins tomorrow, we will have another game between Tennessee and Florida State. And on the other side of the bracket, earlier on today, Florida beating Kentucky, which means later on tonight. This is a doubleheader for Florida, and I find that pretty interesting for the College World Series. I find a lot of things interesting, it seems. But the other game will be later on tonight as well, 7 o'clock. This according to the NCAA official website. Moving on from all of that, we only have a few minutes left in this segment, so we're going to turn a little bit to the baseball world. It was announced yesterday that legendary baseball player Willie Mays passed away at the age of 93. One of the most significant players in the lore of baseball history. The basket catch, one of the most iconic videos of baseball that you will find. Willie Mays, great person. He was a great person. And he passed away last night at the age of 93. Major League Baseball has been holding a moment of silence before every game to honor Willie Mays. The amount of articles that are being released from yesterday and today on Willie Mays, on was he the greatest outfielder of all time? Willie Mays playing in the Negro Leagues. There's a lot of information on MLB's website right now that you can go read plenty of articles about Willie Mays if you are interested. But last night, it was announced that Willie Mays, at the age of 93, passed away. And he was, man, he was in baseball for a long time, very long time. He was a two-time MVP. He won the Rookie of the Year. He was a 24-time All-Star. World Series champion, 12-time Gold Glove. Started his career in 1948 with the Birmingham Black Barons, and he ended his career in 1973 with the New York Mets. 23 years of baseball in the major leagues. Plenty of records going his way. 24-time All-Stars, absolutely insane. Willie Mays, 93 years old, passing away last night. We are going to head to a commercial break here. When we come back, we might talk a little bit more baseball, but I want to transition into NASCAR, start talking about New Hampshire coming up this weekend. There are a few storylines about rumors, and all of this is rumors. But we'll talk a little bit of NASCAR in the next segment. As we head to the commercial break, we will have a short moment of silence in remembrance of Willie Mays, yesterday passing away at the age of 93. You're listening to the Scoreboard. 844 Studio 4 is the phone number. If you'd like to be a part of the program, we'll take your calls whenever you want to call in. We'll be back right after this.
More of sports director Joe Berg's The Scoreboard is coming up on WSIC.
All right, everyone, we are back here on the Scoreboard. 844 Studio 4 is the phone number. Anything you want to chat about on this fine Wednesday? A lot of NASCAR rumors flying around the world. Schedule. Who's driving for who? Bob Pockrass, reporter for NASCAR through Fox, said that NASCAR is expected to have one international race on the Cup Series schedule in 2025. It is also expected that the Busch Light Clash is not going to be in LA. Yes, a round of applause for that. That was a horrible idea to begin. It was cool for 1 year, but once you started going back, it was like, what is this? This is bumper cars. Also, I'm hearing a lot of rumors about what the schedule is going to look like next year. Will Iowa be back on the schedule? Yeah, I think it should, considering the race we saw. It was a good race. Where should the Clash go? The Clash should go to Daytona. It's very simple. It's part of Speed Weeks. Go to Daytona. Do not run the Daytona infield again because you got lucky that you had the finish you did with the 9 and the 12. Kyle Busch taking the win. Go around the oval at Daytona. Go around the oval at Charlotte, by the way, both times you go there. I've heard rumors that Darlington's going to be back in the chase. Atlanta's not, or the playoffs. I still call it the chase sometimes. Darlington is going to be back in the playoffs. Atlanta's probably not going to be a playoff race. Yeah, we're probably going to have Phoenix as the championship race yet again, which doesn't make sense to me either because, NASCAR is based in the Southeast. Why isn't the championship given out in the Southeast? But what do I know? I've seen rumors about Kyle Busch and where he's going to race next year. Man, wouldn't it be something to see him go full circle and end his career with Hendrick? Are all 4 of those drivers locked in for next year? I know 3 of them are. William Byron's still looking for a win this year. Yes, he is in the playoffs right now as we stand, but he doesn't have a win. So I wonder about what the driver lineup is going to look like next year, especially with Stewart-Haas Racing and their charters. And what are the charters going to look like? Are we going to have charters next year? Are the teams going to show up to Daytona? Is a union going to be formed? What's the end game here? It's a mess right now. Behind the scenes, yeah, so the racing has been better this year. I'm not going to say it was great. Yeah, we've had some good finishes. Yes, the racing is good, but it's manufactured because of the way the cars are. But yes, the racing has been better this year. And just because we've had the closest finish in NASCAR history, it doesn't mean that every race this year has been good. It doesn't mean that because we had that finish, this is the greatest NASCAR season ever. No, it does not mean that. First of all, it was a green-white checker. Obviously, the finish is going to be close. Anyway, we'll talk more about that. I want to start previewing a little bit for New Hampshire because track activities are starting on Friday. The Whelen Modified Tour is going to be in town. So they have practice and qualifying on Friday. We have a couple of races on Saturday with the Xfinity race at 3:30 and the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour at 6:30. Then on Sunday at 2:30, it's the USA Today 301. You can listen to that race right here on WSIC. Coverage beginning at 1:30. And it's being presented by PRN this week, the Performance Racing Network. One driver that I've been big on this year throughout the year has been William Byron. He's proven himself to be a very good Cup driver. Here's what Byron has to say about heading to Loudon and how he struggled there in the past.
Had a lot of success there leading up to the Cup Series, and then even my first 2 years in the Cup Series, relative to where I was running, other tracks, I thought I ran pretty well there. But it just seems like with our current team, we just haven't really been very good there, and we just have to figure out what that is, and hopefully go through a lot of notes this week and kind of have something comparable to go run there. Last year we had some damage on the car. I believe we had the right front splitter was caved in based on a pit road issue, and up until then we had led some laps, and then we had an issue in practice with the steering rack was locked up. So just not a clean weekend last year. So I think that's a track that we probably last year could have run top 7.
I think William Byron's going to have a much better showing this year at New Hampshire than he has in the past, mostly because it's a much better year for him this year. Plenty of wins to go already this year. He is considered, in my opinion, a favorite for the championship this year. But we'll have to see if they can get that flat track program figured out, because we're going to go to Phoenix later in the year. Yeah, it's a flat track, Phoenix. Now, the winner at Phoenix earlier this year was Christopher Bell. So you do know that they have a good flat track program. As for the 24, he finished 18th in that race. Just a little, oh, by the way. I've been looking at some of the paint schemes for this upcoming weekend. There are some gorgeous paint schemes. Now, I am not a fan of the Boston Red Sox, as you may be able to tell if you are watching on the WSIC News app or on our Facebook, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, wherever you get our video stream. But Brad Keselowski has a pretty nice car this week. Boston Red Sox colors. He's got the Sox right next to the number. The 6 is Boston Red Sox font. Here's what Keselowski has to say about the next gen at New Hampshire.
It's interesting. I don't know if it was a car that made a big difference, but last year, the groove moved all the way up against the wall, I think, in both ends, and that was a huge change. I think it's more a factor of the PJ1 or whatever they sprayed and the modified races and how the track has aged than it is the next-gen car. Of course, the shifting there makes a big difference, kind of changed the dynamics of the track. And so it'll continue to change, a pretty safe bet. But I don't think the next-gen car itself was a big change for that track.
And I don't think New Hampshire is considered a short track, but then again, I'm surprised that Iowa is. Yeah, I get it. It's less than a mile, but barely. Doesn't drive like a short track. The next gen car at New Hampshire, it's okay. As Keselowski said, yeah, the shifting is really going to be a factor, and it may get things shuffled up, because you get better drive off, better drive in, however it is. But I can't say I'm excited for New Hampshire. I do believe that it's a track that NASCAR should consider moving on from. It's not like they've tried to figure out something there before. PJ1 a few years ago. Remember when they put restrictor plates on New Hampshire and Jeff Burton led every single lap? It's time to leave. We got one more segment on this Wednesday. You're listening to The Scoreboard. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this.
Keep it right here. We'll have more of The Scoreboard with Joe Berg in just a moment. from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, some big-time heat from up north is about to start to make its way down into the Carolinas as we go into the second half of the work week. A partly cloudy sky overnight. Temperatures will stay mild, dipping back into the upper 60s to near 70. We should be able to get back up close to 90 for our Thursday afternoon. Low to mid-90s as we go into Friday and into the weekend with added humidity. Feels like temperatures near 100. Be extra careful outside this weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Langtree Lab, get your weekend off to an early start on Thursday night with a Kids in America concert. This totally 80s tribute band will get you up and dancing. Event time is 6:30 p.m. with the concert beginning at 7. We will see you and your chairs Thursday, June 20th at Langtree, Lake Norman. Friday night at RevFast in Mooresville is the monthly Hot Rods and Hops Car Show. Cool cars, motorcycles, and trucks will be on display. LKN Mobile Eats and Hoptown Brewing will be on hand with smash burgers and cold brews. Join us Friday after 5 p.m. at the late Apex Storage Condos in Mooresville for Hot Rods and Hops. Birkdale's Live Under the Oaks concert series continues on Friday. The Ryan Bumgardner solo musical performance begins at 6 p.m. Kick back and relax on the green in front of the stage at Birkdale Village in Huntersville for the free Ryan Bumgardner concert Friday night. The annual Symphony in the Park is back this Saturday in Cornelius. Bailey Road Park welcomes the Charlotte Symphony and fireworks. Bring your chairs and blankets to enjoy this free, family-friendly show. The Symphony in the Park program and fireworks celebration begins at 6 p.m. Saturday at Bailey Road Park in Cornelius. The Kane Center for the Arts Week 3 of summer camps begins Monday, June 24th. Morning and afternoon camps for ages 5 to 17 include art, ceramics, paint, and clay. For more information on summer camp programs, visit canearts.org. That's CAIN arts.org. The Cookout Summer Shootout Series is racing ahead at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The 10-race series night number 4 is on Tuesday, June 25th. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for tickets, details, and information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Hey, this is Jeff McNeely, owner of G&M Milling Company in beautiful downtown Lowray. We at G&M hope you come by and see us for all your livestock needs. We stock feeds for all kinds of animals and hay too. We also have seed for a wide variety of forages for your animals. So come on by 4000 Taylorsville Highway, Statesville, or call us at 704-873-5758. We're worth the drive. Thank you again for supporting small family-owned businesses. God bless.
It's the Scoreboard with your host, Sports Director Joe Berg on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
All right, everyone, we are back. 844-STUDIO-4 is the phone number. If you have something you'd like to chat about, call me up. I'm here for the next, I guess like 10 minutes or so. So anything you guys have on your mind, let me know. Last night, Shohei Ohtani hit the longest MLB home run of the season. And, yeah, it was pretty far. We've talked about it before with Shohei Ohtani. When he hits a home run, man, you could just tell. You could hear it. You could hear the difference. Something about when he hits the ball, it's pretty good. Some news. Let's get into some news. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about LeBron James' son, Bronny, and how he has not really been working out for many teams. Well, today, agent Rich Paul, CEO of Clutch Sports Group, pushed back to ESPN that James has been receiving different treatment than any other player throughout the pre-draft process. Right now, as of today, June 19th, Bronny James has worked out for 2 teams. 2 teams! 2! The Phoenix Suns and the Los Angeles Lakers. That's it. Now, according to his agent, Rich Paul, that's not new. He's had players before who have had limited workouts, and they all have gotten guaranteed deals. I don't want to look into it too much, but I think it's because it's Bronny James, and it's Bronny James. That's why we're paying attention to this. Like, here's some other players that Rich Paul was the agent for. Talon Horton-Tucker, Brandon Boston Jr., and Chris Livingston. All of those players landed guaranteed deals despite conducting few workouts and being picked late in the draft. This is nothing new. Paul said the goal is to find a team that values your guy and try to push him to get there. It's important to understand the context and realize that this has always been the strategy with many of my clients throughout the years, especially those in need of development like Bronny. My stuff is by design. And, props to him, because we all knew, everybody knows, Bronny's not really ready to be an NBA star. He averaged, 6-7 points at USC last year? Was he a star? No. So he needs some time still. Think about, and I'm not trying to compare the two, but Steph Curry, when he came out of the NBA, out of the college into the NBA, he wasn't ready. He wasn't a superstar right away. Took him a few years. Then all of a sudden, Steph Curry changes basketball. I'm not saying that Bronny James is going to change basketball. But some players do need development in the NBA. Now, they could also go back to college and still get paid now. But obviously, it's different with the NBA. The thing about the NBA is you want to get in as soon as you can, because your first contract, it's not all that great. But if you get a second contract in the NBA, man, an NBA contract is like, NFL players wish they could get contracts like that, unless you're a quarterback or a wide receiver or a superstar. So it's going to be interesting. The NBA draft is coming up soon. Make sure you mark your calendars. Also, in the world of sports, yesterday we talked about the Yankees and how Anthony Rizzo fractured his forearm, first baseman. Well, Aaron Judge is also hurt. He got hit in the hand yesterday. X-rays were negative, so nothing broken, but he is not in the lineup tonight. So just a little injury news in the world of baseball. There have been a lot of injuries this year. Mike Trout, by the way, it was reported yesterday, he is behind on his rehab. It's one of the saddest careers of a baseball player ever, in my opinion. Mike Trout is a great baseball player. He just can't stay healthy. And it's not, I don't want to say it's a disappointment, but it's one of the most unfortunate things about this time in baseball right now, or at least for Mike Trout. I'm sure it's one of the most disappointing things he's had to go through. He's great. He's a great player. He's a member of exclusive clubs and plays great and great batter, great in the field. He just can't stay healthy. I don't know if anybody saw this story. There was an error on the Kansas City Super Bowl ring. On the inside of the ring, the score of each Chiefs postseason victory is listed, including the seeding of each opponent. The ring had the Dolphins listed as the 7 seed, when in fact they were the 6 seed in last year's playoffs. Because you got to remember, Kansas City wasn't the 1 seed. What? Kansas City didn't win the AFC? No, they didn't. It was the Ravens. And then we know how that went in the AFC Championship game. They go to Baltimore, and Kansas City wins yet another Super Bowl. They're going to win more. You're going to have to be worried about them. Kansas City, are they going to be the new New England Patriots? I don't know. But I can promise you, Patrick Mahomes is not done winning. He's a great player. And yet things changed over there in the offseason, but how much did it really change? Later on tonight, we have NCAA College World Series games. We also have the MLS in action. Charlotte FC taking on Orlando. That game is later on tonight. If you're listening to WSIC around that time, you will be able to listen live. Yes, we will be carrying tonight's Charlotte FC game coverage beginning at 7 o'clock. The history between these two teams, 2 wins for Charlotte, 2 wins for Orlando, and a draw. The last time these two teams matched up against each other, it was a draw, 1-1. That was back in August of 2023. So if you're interested in checking out Charlotte FC later on tonight, you'll be able to listen right here on WSIC. You might want to start getting on the bandwagon because Charlotte FC has been shooting up the standings recently. They're a much better home team than a road team right now, which, you know, plenty of time left in the season to get that resolved. But they are 5th. They are 2 points behind 3rd, 10 points behind Miami leading. I don't think they're going to catch them. 6-1-3 at home, 2-5-1 on the road. So you can see where the issues are. But Charlotte FC, much better this year than they were last year, at least at this point in the season. As we approach the end of today's show, let's take a look at some things that happened on this day in sports history. On this day in 1985, Reggie Jackson hit his 513th home run. That moved him into sole possession of 10th place on the home run list. Let's see, what else? 2000, the Lakers beat the Indiana Pacers in Game 6 to win the franchise's first title in 12 years. The MVP of that series was Shaquille O'Neal. And in 2005, Michael Schumacher won a controversial U.S. Grand Prix where only 6 of the 20 cars competed the race due to ridicule of safety and tire regulations at the track. There were a lot of tire failures during the practice sessions. Teams were concerned. Drivers were concerned. And finally, on this day, June 19th, 2006, I bet you know what happened. Out in Raleigh, PNC Arena, the Carolina Hurricanes beat the Edmonton Oilers 3-1 for a Game 7 victory and their first Stanley Cup. That was on this day in 2006. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to the Scoreboard on this Wednesday. I am feeling a little bit better today. Obviously, I was able to make it through the whole show while standing up. Yesterday, that was not the case. It just wasn't. Watch some baseball tonight. Watch some college baseball as well. Plenty of things going on. Charlotte FC, just because the NBA is done doesn't mean that the sports are going to stop. Plenty of baseball going on as well. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. You've been listening to The Scoreboard. I am Joe Berg, your host, and until tomorrow, I will see everybody then. Have a good night, everyone.